So before we go into, because we heard a lot of programmatic approaches, advocacy, funding, lobbying, capacity building, all of those will come together at the end. But before we go into there, I just wanted to make us think about, just to create some discussion about what do we mean by engaging men, what do we mean by father-child play, and what are the benefits and challenges. And then we would like to talk about what do we need to know more about fatherhood. What can we do better to promote fatherhood engagement in playful parenting, and what are the innovative strategies are needed for future? And happy to hear from you. Please feel free to write in the chat and just ask, and let's start this synergy together. So the question in my mind was, when we were diving into this topic, was really father play, is it really different? So like based on the research, most of the research is showing by far fathers can engage in and different parenting behaviors when it comes to play, when it comes to interactions with their children. So it is mostly shown by research that it's physical, more unpredictable than mother-child play. It's more like ruffle tumble play, and it can become frequent through toddlerhood, peaks around the age of 3. But also we see creative and toy play was observed in a father-child diet. And some of the, let's say, European research show mother-child play is more focused on emotional bonding, cognitive stimulation, imaginative and pretend play is also common. This is to clarify that it doesn't mean that the only parent is engaging in these behaviors. It's just relatively observed more between the parent-child diets. So why fathers need to be engaged in playful parenting? Because as earlier said, it contributes to risk-taking behaviors, emotional regulation, social competence, and these findings were seen in longitudinal studies when the children are growing up. And it shows when children have lower levels of aggression, they have better peer relations and resilience. And we can see, of course, effects on cognitive development. And we can see the benefits on mother-child play too, but there's some slight differences. For example, expressing thoughts and feelings, and early literacy skills and language development, for example, and mother-child play. So there are slight differences that might be important for us to understand in engaging fathers. Of course, we talked about it. I don't want to dive too much in it. Not only for the children's outcomes when we have man and father engagement in early years and responsive and playful parenting, men also have more healthy lifestyles, and their well-being and satisfaction increases, reduction in physical punishment, we see less domestic violence, and it helps empowerment of women as well for like gender equality and coherence of the society. But everything comes with challenges. We still fight against cultural norms in society. From our work, we know, I think Heinrich will also give some examples on that one. And we have still beliefs about men's caregiving abilities and men's their own beliefs. And we need to work for better leave policies, giving the space, the parents' work-life balance. And sometimes fathers are going through stresses, like in the workplace, penalized for their when they want to practice their rights for father paternity leave. And it comes to that, I hope at the end, when we are all together, we can all connect the dots about early childhood care and education services, how important they are in supporting parents in that sense. And we still need to build capacity in all fronts about this. So we are, with Heinrich, we are partners in Engaging Men in Nurturing Care initiative, and we're developing a compendium, and I would like to show you really preliminary findings from the compendium, which might open discussions as well. Based on the compendium and a mini analysis of the programs, we know that starting early pays off, but it should be sustained. So there should be some challenges, as also Sonia said, sustainability is one of the biggest challenges. Whole family approaches work, yes, but also there are some findings that targeted fatherhood groups only to fathers might also work. We can discuss the differences. Gender dynamics need to be addressed, definitely. We need to talk about positive masculinities in our programs. As I said, capacity building is very important, and robust monitoring and evaluations to increase impact, which is a huge, important part of our work forward. And of course, collaborations across sectors help sustainability. So when we're going towards the questions, I would like to give floor to Heinrich to talk about a little bit about his experiences, and then we can start discussing among ourselves about these questions, how we can go forward. I'm sorry if it's too fast, but I don't want to lose time. And Heinrich, please give us some insights from your experiences and
yes, thank you so much, Aisha, for sharing this space and giving me an opportunity to share some experiences on maybe if you have time, two related projects that are not addressing playful parenting specifically, but that have been addressing the engagement of men into childcare, fatherhood, active, conscious, and nurturing fatherhood. One of these projects was an EU project that we ran with partners in Germany, Italy, and Austria from 2022 to 2024, called Fathers Rock. And the rationale of that project around fatherhood has, on the one hand, to do with what you just presented about the benefits of engaging fathers in childcare, both for the children and for the mothers and families, but also, of course, for the fathers, the men themselves. And on the other hand, it is based on the evidence and experience that childbirth, that becoming a father is also a stressful moment. It is, on the one hand, an opportunity to involve men into care, but it also is a stressful moment, and it's a risky moment for gender-based violence to come up or to get worse if it's already there. So the Fathers Rock project is based on this notion that childbirth for fathers is both a moment of opportunity that we need to use, but also a moment of risk that we need to be aware of. So what we did in the Fathers Rock project was, on the one hand, to train professionals, early childhood professionals, mainly from the health, but also from the social, and in some countries from the educational sector, to, on the one hand, engage fathers into childcare, into the services on a first level, in the first moment, but then when they were participating in the services, to engage them into a more active and respectful and nurturing childcare. And at the same time, to be aware of, train them to identify signs of risk or signs of gender-based violence in these families, especially, and to address them specifically with the men, and then possibly refer them to perpetrator programs and take security measures for the mothers and the children. So we did this training for professionals on the one hand, and then on the other hand, we developed manuals for fathers groups that we hoped then professionals would deliver. That was the idea of the project, and that was one of the challenges. That was one of the difficulties that we encountered, that despite the training that we delivered to professionals, it was really difficult for them within their usual service delivery to run these fathers groups, and we needed to give them some extra training on the delivery of the groups, and really make some extra effort for them to be able to run these groups. When these groups were run, they were really run successfully. Fathers responded very well, and increased their awareness and engagement in childcare, and responses were overall quite positive. Specifically here in Spain, we delivered the training to health professionals, primary care pediatricians, so primary health care for children and families, but also to social services, who are looking at supervised child contact or exchange of children in situations of conflictive divorces. And that was with the gender-based violence prevention part of the project specifically important in these services. And the third part of the project had to do with what was already mentioned also by you, ISSA, and in the presentations before, the importance of having a collaborative multi-agency approach to address the involvement of fathers and also the early identification and prevention of gender-based violence. So we created a manual also for this, apart from a training manual and a manual for the fathers groups, which you can all find on the website of the Fathers Rock project that I can put a link in the chat. I don't know how we go with time, but maybe we could start looking at the discussion.
Yeah, we have around time. Thank you for this overview. I want to dive deep in it as well, but I'm wondering if you already have some questions, any topics to discuss. I have, I have many questions, but I want to hear from our participants here if they want to comment, reflect in, what do we need to know more? What are the gaps in engaging men in parenting? What are the maybe challenges or strategies you had in your experiences? If anybody here wants to comment, let's give like one moment to think, and then I will come back towards the end to see what we need to discuss more. Thank you, Jen. Yes. We're thinking of what do we really need to know more? What are the knowledge gaps in engaging men into nurturing care and responsive caregiving and playful parenting? And what are we doing now? What are the still pending actions? And what type of effective strategies and solutions are needed for the future to sustain men engagement in caregiving and playful parenting? Do we have any questions or comments? Feyza hocam, I see we deliver a program with municipality workers. As fathers are working during the day, it's a challenge to reach them. Yes, that was one of my questions actually. For eParent project, hi Elise. Yes, it's a partner of Emming project as well. We work in perinatal period from conception to 2 and plays a big part of the conversation. Kieran, do I say your name? Can you tell us more about your work as well a little bit? Yes.
Hi, yes, it's Kieran. Yeah, you got it right.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, we are part of Home Start, which is a national charity in the UK and has Home Start schemes across the world. We're a perinatal peer support service. So we work with midwives and hospitals and health visitors in the first 2 years and health professionals that are doing perinatal mental health. And our aim is to support dads with parent-infant relationships. So understanding attachment, bonding, understanding that rough play that happens at 2 to 3 years old starts with a newborn with blowing raspberries and teasing and tickling and touch, and really helping them to have those physical interactions as well as that emotional containment and interaction. In one town, Stockport in Manchester, for instance, there's a 3,000 a year birth rate, and we see around 900 dads a year in antenatal classes, antenatal clinics, drop-ins, but we work one-to-one with dads, around 50 to 60 doing one-to-one peer support, where we do a lot of role modeling, teaching containment, and really talking about interaction and play. And infant mental health is really our goal. We want to have an impact on the baby's experiences of their dad. And in Total, we see tens of thousands of dads in a universal engagement and hundreds, possibly thousands of dads now in the UK in one-to-one support. And those referrals come from social services and social care, from medical professionals, maternity services, services that are supporting mums with mental health or parenting. They refer dads in as well. And we have a whole kind of process for that.
Yeah, thank you. So that's great. I was wondering, I had one question, maybe Heinrich, also you, and before moving on to the other comments. You know, there's mixed findings in the literature about, we know that family-centered approaches work, but we know that in some cases, targeted father groups also work. What's your comment on that? What's your reflection? In what cases it does work better? In what cases it doesn't? So like, what are the challenges or, you know, the positive, you know, practical parts of having father-only groups? Or I want to also hear, because it's very informative from for the programmatic work. Yeah,
absolutely. We don't deliver groups where we have to invite dads to come, because they don't work for most of the dads that we want to see. You might get dads that come in, but most of those dads will be okay. If they don't have a group to go to, they will probably engage with play, with interaction with their babies in another way, such as going to a park or going swimming or something like that. So we don't deliver those groups. We go to dads in places where they think about themselves as a dad. So initially, that's antenatal scans, midwifery appointments, maternity care, those early days where dads are present but are not engaging with services. And we don't wait for them to come to us. We go to them and speak to them. We give them resources. We ask them how they are, and we give them facts about their baby that they might not know yet, such as facts around hormonal changes in men when they have a baby, the way that skin to skin works for babies and for dads, all of that kind of dad facts, we will call them, that dads really don't know and won't find out from anywhere else. So we don't wait for them to come to us. We always go to them, which is why we have such great numbers. When you're delivering dads groups, you have to remember that the dads that come aren't coming for the same reasons as mums. And usually those groups are set up by people who also run mums service. So dads will tend to come because they want to spend time with their baby or because they want to give mum some space. They don't come to have a chat with other dads. And if that's how you present it, then you're not really going to get dads to come because they really don't want to talk to other men. They do talk to men when they get there, but that's not the reason that they attend. So we need to be a bit aware of that when we're promoting groups.
I say, I hear very, very valuable information from you. They don't come to be together, because that was also another question, that that connecting dads and sharing information, but starting from the child bond in that sense, and the giving them facts that they don't know, because that also, it can be, and in Heinrich's work, Heinrich maybe would provide also the, you know, the mental health and the stress of masculinities that comes, you know, the new father roles and everything. This is very insightful. And before Heinrich, I will give the floor to you, but I also heard that you go to fathers, because it's also a big thing, dropout. Even the fathers are coming, as Faiza said, that we need to reach to them instead of just calling them. We need to find places. So that's also very important. We need to really go and pick them somewhere and just to see, look, this is what's going on. I see.
Yeah,
Heinrich?
we always go to the dads. The things that we advertise for dads to come to are aimed at dads that are already having one-to-one support in referral. And referrals come from professionals around the family. So dads are seen at those appointments that mum's attending, or within those other services, and then signposted or referred directly to us for that support around attachment and bonding.
I see. Yes.
That's so interesting. So you start with the one-to-one work, and then might invite them to other kinds of services or
and the services tend to be shoulder to shoulder, is how we would describe it. So a walk and talk means that you're walking in the same direction, but you're not face to face. Men prefer the 45-degree angle when they're discussing things. But we also employ techniques like asking direct questions about things that we know might be a problem. So we can look in the literature around triggers for mental health, or things that might affect parenting or attachment. And we'll ask them, how was the birth for you? Was it traumatic? How are you managing with sleep? How is your partner? How are you coping with work? Very direct questions about things that then they will elaborate on. What we don't do is say, how are you feeling? Because that response is, yes, I'm okay, thank you. They don't really want to get into it. But when you ask direct questions, men will tend to generate conversation with you then.
That's so interesting. And there might be cultural differences between the UK and Spain, because another project that we started about 15, 20 years ago to run prenatal groups or birth preparation groups for fathers exclusively. That was really successful, and men were really into talking to other men about the experience of becoming a father. And we used to run them together with the sexual reproductive health services, so a midwife plus specialist in masculinities and fatherhood would run these groups together, and that was really successful. They really and it's become standard practice now in the sexual reproductive health services here in Catalonia. So it's interesting how, I
think we would do the same. So we join our midwives and we do a dad chat. So it's a 30-minute window where we speak to the dads about their own role as a dad, their masculinity and pressure, and then we feed them back into midwives for the education around birth, labor, pain relief, supporting partners, all of that. So we work really closely, and we do have a lot of dads that want to engage with that. That education is a key engagement tool for us.
Right.
Education rather than intervention is how we would describe
it. Interesting. Thank you.
Very interesting indeed. Thank you for these insights. And what I hear from this, actually, it's really, really important to dive in, cultural differences, understanding local context. I think this one is what would be one of the moving forward strategies. So I'm really wondering, also others, please feel free to join. What are the next steps for us? What are the pending actions for overall father engagement and men engagement? If you think about the challenges you face in your work, what would you say that these are the most prioritized steps that we need definitely moving forward and engaging men in responsive caregiving? I see in the chat as well, in South Africa from Simon, nuclear family is not the norm, so it makes it harder as you cannot engage with mothers and assume that they will involve the father. Mothers and fathers often don't live in the same home. Does anybody wants to react to that as well? Have you ever encountered such experiences when you need to really handle these kind of situations where the parents are not living in the same home? Heinrich, do you have? I think.
Yeah, I mean, of course we have there are single moms. There are also some fewer single dads. There are like homosexual couples with children. So there are different non-standard constellations, of course, of families. It is not the majority in our context, so the nuclear family is still the majority. But of course, I think we need to adapt to these constellations and need to have offers probably adapted or specific offers to in our case working with dads, single dads or dads in homosexual relationships. Which is really we've had one of in our focus groups for the Mink, we had a gay dad. That was really interesting to hear about the gender roles and stereotypes that sometimes do also exist in gay couples with two men. So that was quite fascinating.
True and interesting. Yeah, definitely. Indeed, like for us, at least now what we're focusing on our advocacy, we're mostly, of course, prioritizing the nuclear family, but it's important that we need to push for inclusive advocacy policies when it comes to leave as well, because there's a huge, based on the goals that as Europe we're moving toward, we still cannot reach the targets where we want to see in terms of paternity leave or parental and paternity leave policies. So for this kind of advocacy, we need to be more inclusive in that sense, but our beginning point is also the nuclear family in Europe as well. Yeah, we have similar issues, particularly around data and information gathering that. In some areas, baby child is a record holder information for both parents. Other main figures can be collected as standards and moms record data. Yes, I think one of the steps going forward is that's really changing this approach in services. Maybe we really need to start challenging these stereotypes in services as well as integrating them. Yeah, I see that they work gay, trans, single, adoptive, stepdads, connect with other services who work that type of parents. Yeah, definitely. There must be a place for them as well. But at the same time, we need to really address the biases in the services to become more inclusive. This is a huge part of the, I think, capacity building work as well, really challenging the right, Henrik, because like they are the frontline workers. If they're coming with these biases all the time, the father's always left out.
I fully agree. This would be, from our point of view, also one of the most important points within these projects. When we started these birth preparations for fathers, the colleagues at the Sexual and Reproductive Health Services said, well, fathers are not interested. They don't come to our service. They are not motivated. They're not interested. And we said, well, let's talk to them. And we did interviews, and they were so interested, just felt that their needs weren't addressed. And I think the strategies that Kieran presented to how can we invite fathers in, how can we adapt to their needs and the specific needs and motivations, which are different from the ones mothers have, is so important for services to take into account and learn in the end to use these strategies that would work with men and their needs and motivations and interests.
Yes, thank you. I think we're also running out of time. My friend is, oh no, the time is extended, so we will have time. That's good. And migrant workers in different provinces. And oh yes, Jen, I think we will have a bit more time to discuss. Okay, that's good, because I was panicking a little bit if we want to. I see that also Simone mentioned, I realize we don't have time, we do now, but along the same lines, we also have a lot of dads who are migrant workers in different provinces and states. Yes, to be honest, I've worked with immigrant families, but integration of fathers into these programs in an immigrant setting can be extra challenging. Simon, do you want to reflect on that maybe?
Yeah.
Do I say your name right? Hello, Simone, right? Simone or Simone?
Yes, and then
Yes.
two of me, because my colleague is using my details, if you don't mind. So that's why.
Oh yeah, I see two Simones. Yes, no problem. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have quite a unique set of challenges, mostly due to our history in South Africa. And so, as I mentioned, and thank you so much for your feedback just on dealing with families that are not nuclear. In a lot of cases, children, they don't know their father at all growing up. And so you kind of have to decide what group are you going to go for. Is it the men who do still have potential to be involved? Should they have the knowledge and information of how important their role is? And so that is the group that we target. But yet it's hard to gather men because often many of them are involved in occupations such as being mine workers, and that requires travel to different provinces, etc. And as you said, it's a very different thing, because you need to then make sure that they understand how to be caregivers from a distance, and how do you build that emotional connection, you know, using technology, especially also when there are resource constraints. So there are a number of variables involved, and we're going to do a workshop now where I've heard that the majority of the population, the fathers, doesn't live in that particular province. So then what do we say to the ECD practitioners, to the mothers? How do they involve the fathers? I'll leave it at that, but if you have any thoughts on that, it would be really valuable.
I want to open this to also to other participants here if they have, because we want to have exchange as much possible and learn from each other, because this is a very great insight, Simone. Mostly in Europe, we're dealing with the nuclear families, but there are other local challenges which can be applied vice versa. Definitely, we need to learn from each other in that sense. I'm not the expert of that, but I know that, which country was that? I think in some islands in South Pacific, I suppose that the fathers were out of home as well. It was a UNICEF program. If I can find it, I can send it to you if you want later on and share. Yeah, definitely. It was not specifically on fatherhood, but like both like family approaches, but they had a huge component of father-child connection, building this connection from farther away. So
amazing.
They might.
Thank you.
Yeah, let me take a note as well. This is a huge challenge. Maybe we need to also address this in the main group when we go back, that how do we address different realities of men when we are talking about father engagement and caregiving. So that's really a huge topic, I think, in the world to begin with, because still globally we see as the mother as the main caregiver. We see mothers taking care of caregiving responsibilities and everything. Heinrich, do you want to say something about?
Yeah, I think it is a we're not experts on the issue of on these like fatherhoods on the margin, if you would just call it like that. The fathers who are working abroad, fathers who are in a different country, fathers who are in prison, fathers who have mental health issues. So there's a whole range of especially challenging fatherhoods that yeah, we tend to not look at much, and I think that's a common challenge that we have to develop strategies that would be meaningful both for the fathers and also for children and the moms, and safe at the same time. Yeah, but unfortunately I don't have answers, more questions than answers around these.
I think what we can also bring to the bigger group, and here we can also create a synergy. I think one of the biggest questions moving forward, just correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just thinking out loud together here as well, that really how to understand men's realities in that sense, because there was a lot of women empowerment work, but did we have enough men and boys empowerment work? What are their realities? What are they going through? I think the research is a bit lacking, and still it's newly picking up. About even the psychology research is all about mother-child, 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 but what are the stressors of men? What do they need to be caregivers? What they need to, you know, how they should be supported. So I think if you agree, this is one of the most things that we need moving forward. Also, of course, like working conditions, advocacy for employers, and overall importance of early childhood, advocacy for early childhood, and giving the well-being of parents. So these are huge issues that come to my mind, even beginning at the very beginning of the road, in that sense.
Totally agree.
Do we have any other reflections and questions? For example, I can give examples from our, for eParent, our other partner of EMINC project in Italy. Now in Naples, they are facing huge issues about really kickstarting fathers to really take up the 10-day parental leave. So contextual factors are really important in this, I think, because in Spain, in Portugal, we see a good take-up of parental leave and more willingness. The research is showing willingness to be involved. But in between, there's something goes wrong. That fathers are really willing, but then we see the numbers at the end. Most of the time, it doesn't even still reach the targets that we want to reach. So what do you think of that? For me, it's really understanding the need for local needs assessments and research on this one. This is a huge gap, and we really don't know as community which path to choose and where.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the challenges to really find out, and some of the research that we're now doing within IMINC will hopefully give us some answers on what are the obstacles for men to really take the leave. Does it have to do with their own with notions of masculinities and what their roles are? Does it have to do with social pressures? Does it have to do with difficulties in the companies that they face, and obstacles from their bosses or from the companies? So I think that's fundamental to know what the obstacles are from the men's and father's point of view.
Indeed. And maybe one last reflection is that we really need to show, and there's also research missing and developing. I think we really need to show the benefits of co-shared caregiving, if possible, involved men and child, not only child development, but as a societal impact, because it will affect definitely the funding schemes. Like if we can show politicians some way, look, this brings more revenue in that sense to have this, and women empowerment. So really need to the point, evidence for that. And I think this is still developing globally, although huge, how to say, strains have been made. My English is, sorry, yes. How is it called? Big achievements have been made. Still, we are still lacking concrete evidence to show for policy. That's one of the things that we need to invest in more, in my opinion. I don't know if you agree, but this is my observation, actually, to be honest. I think we have around 3-4 minutes. We can go over the main points. Jen, maybe you can help us so far, if we still need to think about something else, and we can bring it to the main group as well and hear from them what they think, if they have any expertise or experience about it.
Yeah, of course. That was a really fascinating discussion. I've taken a lot of notes, so maybe I can share my screen and we can just have a quick skim through and see if there's anything glaring I might have forgotten.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of notes. They're spilling off the page, actually. So I'll quickly run through some, but for knowledge gaps and kind of challenges I added is father dropout from programs. We discussed understanding cultural differences and local contexts. We discussed challenges with how to communicate with separated and non-nuclear families, understanding scenarios where fathers might be present due to being migrant workers, being in prison, and other related scenarios. We discussed understanding different realities for fathers and men, and obstacles that might impede men from taking paternity leave. And then under pending actions, we discussed developing specific offers to support different constellations of families, such as single fathers, same-sex couples, separated families. We discussed the need to develop supportive paternity leave policies, address biases in services, and become more inclusive towards fathers. We discussed trying to find ways to support people who are caregivers from a distance, like in South Africa, and how to develop different solutions to support these fathers. We discussed developing an understanding of what men need to be caregivers and the need to develop concrete evidence for policies on father involvement. And then briefly on effective strategies and solutions. This was largely informed by what Kieran said, I think. We discussed reaching out to dads in venues where they see themselves as dads. We discussed how dads involve themselves in fatherhood policies because they want to sort of spend time with their babies. They don't initially get involved in father support programs because they want to commune with other men to begin with. We discussed how father support programs can grow out of one-to-one services especially, and how techniques such as asking direct questions are really important for men. And then we also discussed, sorry, my notes have spilled off the page now, but how birth preparation groups have, like, exclusively for men, have been very effective in Spain. So I think, is there anything else that stands out?
Yeah, I think it covers up every topic. Heinrich, do you see anything?
Yeah, sounds like a perfect summary of the main points. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much, Jan.
Yes.
This is great. This is great overview. And also, I realized I missed some of the chats. I don't want to, close the session without reading them. Faiza said, in Istanbul, we deliver a home visitation program to families with infants 0 to 12 months via municipalities. We plan to organize toy making activities to make toys from recycled materials to increase their engagement. This is a great idea. I think this is amazing. I think it's allows also men to be involved in their own way, so to speak, in the way that they feel comfortable, maybe, and then really a great way to connect. Thank you for this suggestion, and we want to learn more about the programs in Istanbul as well, Faisal. We don't have time now, but maybe in the future we will hope to hear from more. Indeed. I'm just checking if we missed something earlier. I think one of Headley needed to leave, and asking where can I find slides, but we will organize it later on, probably, right, Jan? We will send the slides or any resources that we like to share. I'm going through. We talked about South Africa issues and different others. Thank you for your contributions. These are all very, very valuable. And yes, from Italy, Elise said the shortest mandatory leave is 10 days and still fathers don't take it. This is a huge challenge. Indeed. Thanks a lot, Faiza. Yes, I think we're set. Thank you so much for all these contributions. Thank you, Heinrich.
Thank you.
I wish we had more time to discuss, because this is an endless discussion and we need to do more and more and more for father engagement. But one day we will go there. Oh, okay. Now let's move back to the main session and see you there in the main session together. Yes, leave the breakout room.